I am Vanessa McFarland, and I was resurrected on June 8th, 2015. I'd always been involved in church. I got saved at camp and baptized when I was about 7, but I never had fully given over my life to Christ. So as I grew up, as I became a teenager, I was just going through the motions, kind of living that double life, just doing what I wanted to do. You know, I broke all the 10 commandments, whether I thought about it or did it. Those are things that I felt guilt for years until I was able to grasp that, you know, His forgiveness as far as the east is from the west. It's what you do with that and how you handle that and not repeating those same things. I was 21 years old when I fully surrendered to the Lord. My first marriage had ended and I was pregnant with my son. After I had my son, that's when I knew that Jesus had to be Lord of my life, that I couldn't live any other way. I can't live without Him. I think that's what resurrection is that change, because that's what happens, is you go from being dead to being alive. And I know that prayer, at that time I had my mom on her knees about 24 hours a day during my pregnancy, but I know it was because of her prayers that I was saved and that I now have a relationship with Jesus.
An area woman was seriously hurt this week as she tried to help another driver whose car had flipped on the side of the road.
Tonight, the woman, a nurse and mother of 3, is in the ICU at GHS. WI5 News 4's Ashley Swan is live and local with how the community is rallying around her and her family. Ashley?
They sure are. Vanessa Gordon has already faced 1 surgery here this week and will have many more. Her husband says she was essentially crushed from the waist down.
Vanessa, an experienced nurse, suffered serious injuries Monday night as she was attempting to help an injured driver along the side of Highway 25 in northern Greenville County.
She heard the noise and looked up, and the car was there, and it smashed all 3 of them into the back of the car. She was pretty much crushed from the waist down.
Vanessa has been in the ICU at Greenville Health System ever since. Vanessa has already had 1 surgery and will face many more. Still, Jason says he has no doubt she'll be okay and return to helping others again soon.
It's in her blood. It's her nature. She's a God-loving woman, and that's what we do.
I was driving home from work. I saw a truck had overturned. So I did a U-turn to go and help. So I introduced myself. I said, I'm Vanessa, I'm a nurse. And the man said I was the driver in the accident and I hydroplaned, my truck flipped. I was looking at him and I saw that his hand was bleeding. And I said, well, you don't mind going up to my van, I said, my medical equipment's in the back and I can at least clean you up until the ambulance or the fire department gets here. I looked and an SUV was hydroplaning coming down the emergency lane, so I knew we were going to be hit. But I was thinking this guy was just flipped in a truck, so I didn't want him to get hit by the car, so I took my arms and I pushed him out of the way, and the rear panel and the tire hit me and pushed me into the back of my van. And when the SUV left my body, it flung me back onto the pavement. And I looked over to my right because I was laying on my back, and I saw Kathy laying on her back, and I could tell that she was unconscious. So I wanted to get over to her to see what I could do to help her. And when I went to move, I felt my body split in 2. I felt this warmth, this feeling inside my stomach, and it just moved up. And I quit breathing. And then I remember that my eyes, when they closed, I immediately was in this bright tunnel of clouds, just this hallway. It was just beautiful. It was peaceful. I wasn't experiencing any pain. I wasn't in the rain. And there was a presence beside me. He was touching my shoulder, and I could feel him as we were kind of floating through this hallway towards something. And the whole time, he was just saying to me, it's all about love. It's all about love. And I knew that that was Jesus. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, I've made it, you know, I'm with the Lord. We get to the gate and it was open, and I said, oh yeah, I made it. I knew that I didn't deserve to be there, but I said, ooh, I'm going in. I never saw Jesus's face, but his hand touched my face and he turned my face and he said, "Your work is not done yet." And he showed me my son's face, Caleb, my daughter Marley, and my daughter Ella Grace. And that's when I woke back up on the pavement in the emergency lane, and the ambulance arrived. When he got to me, I was just praying, just amazing prayers, like heartfelt, genuine prayers. I was speaking to Jesus. The next thing I remember were the nurses wheeling me on the gurney to go to ICU, and that was the second time I crashed. The nurses, they ended up putting me in a room that they could close the doors because they said I was singing so loud and I was singing praise songs that it was disturbing some of the other patients, so they had to keep the doors closed. And then sometimes they would open them so they could hear me singing. They found out that when I was hit by the car, it crushed my pelvis, broke my pelvis in two, broke my iliac crest, which is in the back. My left leg was shattered from the hip down, and it had ripped off part of my left leg and it ripped off my right ankle. I've had a total of 16 surgeries since June 8th of 2015. My husband at that time left me at home with 3 kids, and I was in a wheelchair, and I had an upcoming surgery. That was a very hard time. That was a breaking point for me, where I felt like I had been through this amazing experience. I had seen a glimpse of heaven, seen a glimpse of Jesus, and felt his love and his presence. I'd endured all of this physical pain, and I had worked so hard to be able to walk again, because the doctor said I would never walk again. I didn't know what God's purpose was for me at that time. I know his purpose when I died and came back to life. He had shown me that, my focus needed to be on my children and not my career path, and not all the things that necessarily I wanted to do. I need to focus on what he had given me. And I knew I was never alone, even through the pain of recuperating, recovering, learning how to walk. Just lots of things that I had to go through and endure, but I was never angry. I was never upset, because I knew that God had done this for a reason, for a purpose. I believe that this happened to me for many reasons. During the time of my hospitalization, they were doing blood drives, because I ended up receiving 15 pints of blood. I had multiple bags of plasma, but during that time, I think they ended up doing 5 to 6 blood donation days where they were able to save many lives, not just mine. So I'm hoping that was a domino effect, that somebody that received that blood, or somebody that gave that blood, had the opportunity to hear my story, or to hear somebody's story, and had the opportunity to meet Christ. I was able to lead a man that I had met and befriended. I was able to lead him to Christ. Just sharing little tidbits of that story. Everybody has a story. Every family has a story. Every person has a story. And that's all we have to share. It's not that we have to go out and witness and follow an ABC plan. You just have to be real, and you have to be genuine. You have to be willing to expose yourself a little bit and be vulnerable. The one thing that God's gifted me with right now is I met Robin McFarland, and we got married on New Year's Eve. And I never thought that I would find somebody that I could love and share my life with, who believed what I believed, who would accept me as I am, physically impaired, and just with the story that I came with even prior to the accident. When I met Robin, he said, I prayed for you when you had your accident. So the power of prayer, that talking and communicating with God, that is it's as necessary as breathing to me. I have been resurrected spiritually through my salvation at 21, and the Lord chose to resurrect me physically June 8th, 2015, twice. And I view that as an opportunity to share his love. If I could say one thing, or have like the last thing to say, I would say it's all about love. It's all about relationship. People are always looking for their purpose, but it's knowing who gave you a purpose. I just think about how Christ died for me, and he didn't have to do that. I'm definitely unworthy. As I tell my youth, I broke all the 10 commandments, whether I thought about it or did it. And those are things that I felt guilt for years, until I was able to grasp that, his forgiveness as far as the east is from the west. It's what you do with that and how you handle that and not repeating those same things. I think that's what resurrection is that change, because that's what happens is you go from being dead to being alive. And that's what Christ did for us. He loved us so much that he was willing to physically die, even though he had done nothing wrong. And then 3 days later, he rose from the dead to say, you know what? I'm the winner here. I'm the conqueror. I have the victory. And that's who I want to be like. That's who I want to serve. Through his grace, through his power, I just want to glorify him in all I do. And I know eventually that I will get to be in the arms of Jesus again, and I cannot wait for that.